All right, let's talk about something we think we understand, the place of religion in our modern world. There's this story we're all told, this idea that faith and modernity are on a collision course. But what if that whole story is flawed? What if it's actually blinding us to what's really going on? Let's get into it.
So, to get our heads around this, let's go back in time. The year is 1883. It's a huge deal. Hebrew Union College is celebrating its very first graduating class of American Reform rabbis. It's a landmark moment, right? But get this. The menu they served included clams, crabs, and shrimp. I mean, these are foods that are explicitly forbidden by Jewish dietary law. This dinner went down in history as the Treffa banquet. Treffa basically means non-kosher. You can imagine the stir this caused.
So, what was that all about? Was it a religious celebration for a new generation of spiritual leaders? Or was it, a bold, secular statement, a deliberate break with tradition? The fact that it's so hard to pin down, so tricky to label, well, that's exactly what we're digging into today.
Okay, so to really get why that banquet is such a head-scratcher, we need to look at the lens we usually use to see these things. It's kind of the default setting for how we think about religion in modern life, and it's often called the secularization story.
Now, the heart of this old story is something called the secularization thesis. You might have heard of it. It was popularized by thinkers like Max Weber. And the idea is pretty simple. As societies get more modern, with all the science and rational thinking, religion is just supposed to fade away. It basically sets up modernity and religion as these two opposing forces, like they're in a fight to the death. And you can see that conflict laid out right here. On one side, you have modernity. It's all about science, reason, progress. And on the other side, you have religion, which this model frames as being all about tradition, faith, and the past. The old way of thinking is pretty clear. It's a zero-sum game. You can't have both. One side has to win out.
But here's the thing. What happens when real life just refuses to fit into those neat little boxes? Well, that's when the whole story starts to break down. When you actually look at what people do, the old model just doesn't hold up.
Just think about some of these fascinating puzzles from modern Jewish life. For instance, you have Orthodox feminists. They're deeply committed to tradition, yet they're also fighting to take on rituals that have historically been just for men. Or what about Reform Jews? Their whole movement started by breaking away from a lot of rituals, but now you have a new generation enthusiastically bringing them back. And then there's maybe the most confusing one, devoutly observant people, who follow all the rules on the outside, but who will tell you privately that they've lost their faith. None of these examples fit that simple religious versus secular model, do they?
See, it's not as simple as saying these people are becoming more religious or more secular. Something else is happening, something way more interesting and complex. So, what is really going on here?
Well, to figure this out, we need to change our lens. We need a new tool. And this is where a concept from scholar Randy Rashcover comes into play. It's called the new secularity. And it offers a really powerful, totally different way of seeing how faith and modern life actually interact.
Okay, so what is this new secularity? The absolute key idea is that tradition and rationality are not enemies. They're not in a fight. Instead, it's a way of thinking where the meaning and the validity of religious practices really come from how communities adapt them, how they make them work in the world they actually live in right now.
So this new mindset has three main parts. First, it totally appreciates science and its methods. No conflict there. Second, it's a little bit skeptical of the idea that science is the only way to find truth or validity. And third, and this is really the game changer, it sees that the meaning and rationality of faith isn't some fixed thing. It's a hands-on living project that communities are constantly working on as they navigate modern life. All right, so we've got our new lens. Let's go back to those puzzles from before, the ones that just didn't make any sense with the old model, because this is where it all starts to click. First up, those Orthodox feminists who want to wrap tefillin, remember them? With our old secularization story, they were just a walking contradiction. But now, looking through this new lens of secularity, what do we see? What we see is that they're not rejecting tradition at all. In fact, you could say they're engaging with it on a much deeper level. They're rationally negotiating it, blending their commitment to ancient practices with modern values, like equality, to find a richer, more inclusive meaning for themselves. Okay, what about the other puzzle? Those Reform Jews who are bringing back ancient rituals that their own movement might have once set aside. How does our new lens explain that? Well, it's not some backward slide into an irrational past. Not at all. It's a totally pragmatic, creative search for meaning right here in the present. They're taking these old practices and rehabituating them,
basically giving them new life and a new purpose that makes sense in their modern lives.
So, here's the big takeaway. We've got to stop thinking about this as a simple sliding scale from less religious to more religious. It's just not a useful way to look at it. It's not how things work.
What's really happening is this constant, living, dynamic conversation between people and their traditions. It's all about people actively figuring out how to make their heritage make sense, how to make it speak clearly and powerfully in the incredibly complex world we all live in today. It's a creative act, not a destructive one. So I want to leave you with this question. Now that you have this new tool, this idea of the new secularity, start looking for it. Where else in the world around you do you see this amazing negotiation happening? This dance between tradition and modernity? Once you start looking, I think you'll see it everywhere.